White text over video of past events. Logo, Chicago Cultural Accessibility Consortium. Professional Development Series presents Accessible Services Showcase, Project Potential, Part 3, Open Captioning. On stage, 3 people stand together under a screen with captions. At left, a woman sits at a computer. At right, an ASL interpreter signs.
So yes, my name is Matt, this is Lindsay, this is Rachel. And over here, we have Kathy.
At left.
Who's handling the real-time captioning today, the CART captioning today. You can see her work scrolling here, and I just wanted to say real quick that real-time captioning is different from pre-built captions, of course, captions that you guys can build from a script. Kathy is a specialist, she is a technician, she's a master, and she's doing this without having to have a script. But today we're going to be talking about how you guys can take one of your scripts and turn it into captions, as you saw during the show. So captions and subtitles both transliterate speech as it's happening, but captions try to describe the full soundscape, the whole thing. How the characters are speaking their lines, the noises that the characters are making, the noises that are surrounding the character. Captions, of course, are for the deaf and hard of hearing. There's also another group that we're finding more and more are using captions, and that's the group that have lost their hearing due to age or illness or accident. And this is a group that won't necessarily identify as being deaf or hard of hearing, but they'll still come to shows, and they won't look for open captioning, but the captions will help the experience of the play for them a lot. But I definitely do want to say that captions are not a replacement for ASL, right? You have to ask your deaf patrons what they prefer, captions or ASL interpretation, or just do both, because that's great. So we're going to talk a second about how you caption your scripted event, right? You really need 3 pieces of hardware, basically. You need a display, which can be a television, a projector, even a mobile device like a phone or a tablet. You need a laptop computer here, and then you need a way to connect them, usually like a cable, HDMI or whatever, right? The process of captioning involves taking the script and breaking it down into small bits of text to make them as readable and artfully presented as possible. Lindsay's going to talk about the art of that in a second. But the goal is to put this text into a slide-like format. And then during the show, you advance this text, these captions, these slides during the performance as the actors, the presenters speak. Right. Everybody here has access to this software, Google Slides or PowerPoint or Keynote. These are all really great programs to have because with them you can both build captions and run them, of course. That's all you need. A lot like what I was doing earlier, the program that I use, however, is not PowerPoint. It's a program that I built myself because I had a goal of making this process a good bit more efficient. It works the exact same way, but I'm going for sort of trying to make the process of building easier for me. PowerPoint is really fantastic, but it is not designed for building captions. So that's what CaptionPoint is. It's not ready for public consumption quite yet, but Lindsay and I actually consult and build and run captions in the Chicago area for theaters. So if you want to learn more, talk to us, please about that. And then Lindsay here is going to talk a little bit about the art of captioning.
Hello, everybody. Wow, so many of you here. So the one thing you really need to focus on is what makes captions the most readable. So we found that what works best is having a yellow font and a black background. And don't use all caps because it's really hard to read. And use sans serif instead of serif fonts. For example, Arial instead of Times New Roman. Because who likes Times New Roman? I personally like to color my characters' names. You might have noticed that during the scene, because then I find that it helps with it's like a subliminal signal that a new character is speaking, and so that means I don't have to read the character's name in addition to the lines. I could just read the lines and focus on the actors, which is why I'm at the play, to see the play, not watch the screen. So, and along that same line, you want to have no more than 2 or 3, maybe 4 lines of text, because you don't want to have too much text on the screen. Because if you have a big chunk of text on the screen and you can't glance at it and look back on the actors, you have to go read the whole thing, and you're missing what's happening on stage. So it's really important just to have pieces of dialogue. Sometimes that's half a sentence, but it works really well. Some other tips are don't give away jokes or dramatic moments too early. You want your audience to laugh at the same time, or gasp at the same time, or scream at the same time, or faint at the same time. And what else? Caption as much sound as you can. So be colorful but brief. So for example, instead of saying clang, you could say loud metallic clang. And instead of saying chatter, you could say hushed, nervous chatter. And just to be descriptive, have fun with it. And speaking of sound, if you have songs in your play, it's really important to include the lyrics to the songs. Because Rachel and I have talked about this before, a lot of movies and TV don't show lyrics. And it's so annoying because I could tell that there's music and songs. I want to know the words, so include those. I could go on all day about this, but I won't. So, moving on.
Yeah, there is a ton, of course, to talk about the art of captioning. We're speeding through this really, really quickly. I did actually, sorry about this, Kathy, I didn't warn you about this, but I did put, that worked.
Text captionpoint.com/resources.
I did put a page on our website that included everything that we're talking about today with a little bit more. Also, Lindsay and I are working on a web series, filming a web series about DIY captioning that we're going to release soon. So there's a mailing list out in the lobby. Please sign it. We'll let you know when that's going to happen. Let me see. But what we'd like to do to kind of show what's happening is bring the actors back and show a couple of examples of how you could caption the same bit of scene completely differently.
2 women in an office, open captions are edited.
What can I do for you?
I missed my evaluation.
Belinda.
I'm
That's
really
your
sorry
name,
about that.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Wait,
yes.
Belinda Velasquez
Belinda.
Herrera Montañez de Granados.
No, it's fine. I
No,
get
just
it. I
expect
get
some
confused
When I
myself.
first got here,
I'll walk
I
down
mean,
the hall and
Maria's
I'll
for
yell,
sure, and of course
Belinda,
the
like 30
Rosas, and let's
girls
not
turn
forget
their
the
heads.
elaborate
It's not just
Rosa
teachers,
Marias.
it's a bunch of
I'm
students,
kidding,
too.
it's a
Yeah,
joke.
right,
But seriously,
right. Oh,
which
sorry.
Belinda are you?
10th grade social studies.
Hold, please.
Matt.
Yeah, so as you can tell, we took a ton of liberties with the script there, right? To make this section as readable as possible. But the nice thing is that we had the luxury of being able to sit down with the director, Laura, and sort of get her input and be able to sort of make some very strong choices in the captioning. What she wanted to see is that Adeline is taking control of this conversation. So you really miss what Belinda is saying in that bit because she's sort of rambling and nervous and upset. By the way, real quick, that should be happening a whole lot more in Chicago because it's super fun to get the theater team, the theater designers together with the accessibility designers. So many cool things could happen if we do that more. So let's Let's think about that. That'd be great. And so now we're going to show the same scene, but captioned a completely different way. Casey?
Return to office. Open captions are verbatim.
So, what can I do for
I
you?
know, I missed my
Belinda, that's your
evaluation.
name,
I'm
right?
really sorry about that.
Wait,
Oh, yeah, yes.
Belinda Velasquez,
Belinda.
Serena Montañez o Granados.
No, it's
No, I
fine.
just
I
didn't
get
expect
it.
so many
Yeah, I get
Belindas when I
confused
got here. I mean,
myself.
Maria's
I'll
for
walk
sure, and
down
of
the
course
hall,
the
and
Rosas,
I'll
and
yell,
let's not
"Belinda,"
forget
like
the
30
elaborate
girls just
Rosa
turn their heads,
Marias.
'cause it's not
I'm
just
kidding,
teachers,
I
it's a
kid,
bunch
it's a
of
joke. But
students.
seriously,
It's an obscenely
which
popular
Belinda are
name.
you?
Sorry. 10th grade social studies.
Hold, please.
Matt.
Right. So neither way was incorrect, I don't think. I think we've had to caption a similar scene both ways, but in this example, we just dumped the entire script onto the screen. So you could possibly read some of it, not make out all of it. If the director had said, I want to convey the chaos that's happening with the two actors. They're talking exactly the same time, and they're talking the same kind of forcefulness, but we made that choice. Did you want to say something?
Oh, yeah.
Lindsay gestures to audience.
Because you guys couldn't hear what the actors were saying either, right? So it makes sense that we will be able to read everything that the actors were saying.
Right.
So that's the idea.
Yeah, so those are different. There's so many ways to do this thing. That's the art of it. But now to talk about the fantastic audience experience that you should strive for with captioning is Rachel Arfa.
Hi, so my name is Rachel, and I'm a deaf person, and I go to a lot of theater, and I'm so appreciative about the work that Matt is doing to make captions accessible and helping to make the field of captioning more innovative with their contributions. So thank you for that. But that means that because there are so many theaters providing captioning, guess what? It's not enough just to provide captions in quality. For me, the theaters that stand out are the theaters that also invest in their customer service. And this is crucial. In fact, when I'm trying to design what show to go to, it was between a theater that provides caption, but does not provide customer service, and a theater that I know their box office is well treated, the house staff is at the bar, and then I know that my seats are going to be in the appropriate line of sight. I will choose that theater over another theater that is just providing captions. That's how important it is. And that is also a testament to all the hard work that has happened in Chicago to make theaters accessible. So we keep raising the bar, so that's all of us here who have helped to push that up. So how do we do that? First, I want to add to what Susan and Isabel said about the importance of line of sight, just like the Susan and Isabel at least just demonstrated with poor interpretive placement right over here in front of me. Sometimes people will put captioning screens all the way to the right or all the way to the left. Yeah, so that means that the deaf person will have to sit here in this scenic area all the way right to the stage. And that means it's impossible to watch what the actor is saying. I use caption, but because I don't have access to be able to hear, I depend entirely on their facial expressions, their body language, and I also need to be close enough to be able to read their lips, because when I do is I will read the captions, and then I will look to the body language and to the actors, so then I can catch them delivering that line, because now I know what they are going to say. So if I'm placed right here, it's impossible for me to have that full experience. But also it means that so if I'm sitting in another area and the captioning screen is all the way to the right or all the way to the left, that means that my theater experience has become a tennis match. I'm turning my head from Broadway to the right for the next 2 hours. I work full time, I want to relax at the theater, and watching a tennis match is not relaxing. So be thoughtful about placement, and good caption placement will be, for example, discrete right here at the center of the stage, because if you are sitting at the center, it becomes very easy to watch the actors and not look up and look back down. So the governors try not to have to turn their hand custody. That's a good rule. So another ways to help improve the customer service is to train out of your front of house staff, make sure that they know there's an accessible performance, help them make sure to know how to communicate with people who are deaf and hard of hearing. If I meet a front of house staff, if they start, I read them, so if they start turning away, they're talking about blah, 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 I know that they're not aware of how to communicate with me, and that they also have not been trained, so it's not at their radar. So that's really important, because you want to be able to troubleshoot anything that happens. So make sure your box office knows other things. There's nothing worse than me calling Katina to say, I want to buy a capture ticket. If they say, I don't know when it is, I don't know how much it is. So make sure that you have all that information, that it's easy to read, please, and also with the access price. Almost all the theaters have access prices, which is really important, because why is it important to have a reduced price? One, because it acknowledges that you are the one that chose the date for the person with a disability, because that's the only show I could go to. So it's sort of a way to show some respect. And yes, I know not all of our performances are captioned, but this is the day that we pick, and you've taken away the person with the disability choice. But also, if you screw up, the person with the disability is going to be more lenient, more understanding. And I say that because one time there was a theater that refused to provide an accessibility ticket. My tickets were the completely rock section, and I felt I held them to a higher standard because of the full ticket read. Whereas if they even happen at 20 or 30 out of it, which is what most theaters charge here, I would have been more understanding. It's just a way to show that mutual respect. And it goes a dark way. It sounds very minor, but it really goes a dark way. So make sure to test out other seating. Finally, for extra credit, work with the set designer to incorporate where the caption is going to be in the set before the set is designed. I think that there is so much untapped creativity that could be done. For example, put a picture frame where the caption display could be, and then the day of the caption performance, put the screen there. There's a lot of other great ideas, and I think that there's a lot of potential there. So I'm going to turn this back over to Matt and Listy.
I know that we threw a ton of information at you guys very, very quickly. So again, we're all so easily reachable. Our information is in the program. CaptionPoint.com/resources for this. If you guys start building your own captions, please let us know. We'll come. We love to give really helpful feedback and stuff. So thanks so much for listening.
Fade to black. White text on black background. ChicagoCulturalAccess.org. More information and free workshops. Calendar of accessible cultural events in Chicago. Free accessibility equipment loans, including audio description kits and caption screens. Credits for Part 3 Open Captioning. Matthew Bivens, Caption Manager and Designer. Lindsay Jean Drexler, Caption Designer and Expert User. Rachel Arfa, Expert User and Consultant. Jennifer McElroy, ASL Interpreter. Kathy Rashkin, Real-Time Captioning. Scene from Project Potential by Isaac Gomez, directed by Laura Alcala Baker. Featuring Erica Cruz Hernandez as Belinda and Leslie Sofia Perez as Adeline. ASL interpreters Lizzie Rangel and Susan Elizabeth Rangel. Thank you to our sponsors, ACS Interpreting and Training Services, Foxhole Creative, Harris Theater for Music and Dance, Horizons for the Blind, the Michael and Mona Heath Fund, Steppenwolf Theater Company. Video production by Foxhole Creative, Tim Frank, producer, Tony Schiavone, camera operator, Alex Moore, camera operator and editor, Haley Blumquist, audio technician. Video audio description by BridgetMelton.com. Video fades to black.